MashaAllah. Thank you so much, Sayyid Haidar, for that recitation of the dua after Fajr. Inshallah, we can all take advantage of these beautiful duas that we're learning. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome once again to Hijab and Etiquette. Now, today we're going to be discussing the politics of clothing, because in recent years, the hijab, you can say, has become a symbol, a political statement. It's become an act of rebellion as such against Western society, which seems to oppress the women and make women a form of sexual entertainment. Now, joining me is our guest, Sister Masuma Jafar. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Would you say that the hijab is an act of rebellion, or is that a really harsh way of looking at it?
I think it is to a way, in a way, because I think the Western society is very much moving towards sexualizing everything.
Yes.
You know, especially with the internet and so forth that we have. You know, in the olden days it was something that was done very discreetly, whereas now it's very open. The advertisements that are out there, you know, even the cartoons now. It's, you know, I was looking, you know, thinking back at the cartoons that I used to watch compared to, you know, what my children watch, and now compared to what is there now, because my children are a lot older now, and I just feel like there is a sense of sexualism that's happening very subconsciously, but very discreetly in all of these things.
Can you give us a few examples?
I think it's like, for example, when I used to watch cartoons, it was very much Tom and Jerry, and you know, Tom would taste Jerry, and it would, you know, that it was just that concept of sort of, you know, fun and
I remember it well.
Yeah. and now it just seems to me like I can't think of any sort of examples of where they watch it, but you know, it's like even and the women are very sort of you know, what they're wearing is very, you know, even if it's an animated figure, it's very much sort of wearing very sort of skimpy clothes, very tight clothes, you know, like a bright red lipstick, and sort of, you know, really flirty towards the other cartoon character, and it just seems very. It's not what I want my children to be seeing at such a young age.
Yeah, it's almost as if like we're telling our young girls that like the only way you're going to get in the world is like if you're just flirtatious and seductive with men.
Exactly.
And that's so sad. I guess one thing I've heard quite a lot ever since I've started wearing the hijab is that some sisters and even some brothers have turned around and said that wearing the hijab in the West is a contradiction because it's not the norm over here. You know, most people, they go around uncovered, whereas when you see a lady wearing the abaya, the scarf, the chador, she looks different, so people are going to stare at her. Like, is it a contradiction, or are we just looking at it in the wrong way?
I think in the olden days where there were very few Muslims, yes, we used to stand out quite a bit, but I think especially living in the UK, living in London, it's, you know, there are so many Muslims around, so many women who are choosing to cover themselves, that I think it's become quite norm.
Yes.
I don't think people sort of bat an eyelid now when they see a Muslim woman. It's you know, they see us around everywhere.
What about, for example, I'm a Reaver, and I actually, before I moved to London, I lived in a village where everyone was white and English. What about in that case?
Okay, so again, I think you have to sort of take it back to what God dictates. So there is a minimum requirement that is there, where you have to cover your body, you have to cover your hair, you have to, you know, the only thing that should be showing is your face and your hands. You have to cover your feet. And it has to be covered with loose clothing.
Yes.
Now, how you choose to do that is your decision. You know, whether you want to wear an abaya, whether you want to wear a chador, whether you want to wear just, you know, baggy jeans and baggy top, that's up to you.
Yes.
As long as, you know, you're fully covered and with loose attire, which doesn't show the shape of your body, then it's up to you how you want to wear. But so you may choose, if you're living in a place where, you know, there aren't that many Muslims, you may want to blend in more by choosing to wear Western clothes. As long as you are covered appropriately, it doesn't matter how you do it.
Yes.
So if you feel okay by wearing an abaya and a chador, I feel like I'm getting much more attention than I feel comfortable with, then you don't need to wear that. Nowhere in the Quran does it say you have to wear a specific type of dress. It's just a matter of ensuring that you're covering yourself fully. And that minimum requirement must never be put aside.
Yes.
For the sake of, oh, I'm standing out more. That doesn't matter.
Yes, of course. You know, if we are sticking to the guidelines set by the Sharia, then it doesn't matter what we wear as such. We can wear, you know, Arab style clothing like the chador. We can wear Asian clothes. We can wear Western clothes. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as we're sticking to the guidelines.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I had a conversation with a sheikh about this, and he gave me a brilliant answer. And he said, yes, the Muslim woman does get stared at in the West because she's dressed differently to other women, but it's not a lustful gaze. You know, it's just a look like, oh, you look a bit different, a bit funny, maybe. Like, it's not out of lust, and that's the whole purpose of the hijab. It's to stop men from staring at us as sexual objects.
And it may actually then open up conversation and communication on, you know, why are you wearing what you're wearing? You know, explain that to me. And that's a beautiful way to do tabligh, to do dawah, where you're actually then talking about Islam and saying that I'm choosing to wear this because I believe in a creator who's helping me take care of my soul, not my body.
Absolutely. Now, as we live here in the West, mashallah, like, there are so many sisters who, you know, they want to not only succeed in the akhirah, but succeed in the dunya as well. But they might be worried about how their hijab might affect them. They might be worried, oh, you know, if I go to a job interview wearing my hijab, maybe they might turn me down. Like, maybe I'll miss out on opportunities. Maybe I'll miss out on having fun, because at the end of the day, we all want to have fun. We don't want to be serious all the time. What would you say to a sister who might be worried about being judged by her clothing?
I think first and foremost, get her to realize that a lot of it is in her own head rather than what's actually out there. So she's building it up in her own head and making it a bigger thing than it actually is. Secondly, get her to talk to women who are wearing hijab.
Yes.
And actually, you know, find out what their experiences are. And there can be a few negative experiences. And again, knowing those negative experiences will help her prepare if anything like that happens to her. But, you know, there's a lot more positive experiences than negative. I mean, I think most people are very accommodating when it comes to the way you want to dress. There's a very handful of people who have a problem with it, and they'll always have a problem with something or other. So I'm not going to dictate my life according to what they say or they feel. I'm going to do what works for me. And I think the last thing I would say to this sister is know that God is in control. So when it comes to a job interview, a university interview, or anything else that you're aiming for, if you have God by your side, you're going to succeed. If you don't have God by your side, then even if you get that job or that university position, you're not going to succeed, whether it's in this life or in the hereafter. I think that's really important to understand, that God is in control. Risk comes from God. You know, He will only give you what's good for you, and it's not about giving up this world for the akhirah. It isn't. You can have both this world and the akhirah. This world was created for us, but it's a matter of using it to make us get closer to Allah and not sort of sinking in it. It's like, you know, holding the world in my hand and using everything that God has given me, but not letting it enter my heart. I suppose the example would be like a ship. A ship needs water to sail, but when the water enters the ship will sink.
Yes.
In the same way, I need this world to function, to have fun, to do everything I want to, But if I let it enter my heart, where all that matters is this world, then I will too sink and drown.
Yes, that statement, it reminds me of this beautiful saying by our Imam al-Qadhim alayhi salam, where he says that this world, it's like seawater. The more you drink from it, the more it dehydrates you, and eventually it kills you. But like, if we're just swimming along in it, you know, quite happy, then it's not going to harm us as such. And it's interesting as well, what you mention about speaking to other sisters about the hijab. I completely agree with you. I know in my own journey, speaking to other sisters of various different ages, whether they're my age or whether they're older than me, it's been a huge source of inspiration to me. And you know, it reminds me of what Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, that, you know, we become our best when we are surrounded by good people who support us, not toxic people who want to put doubts in our minds and stop us from succeeding.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really important who your friends are.
Yes.
And a lot of the way you behave and the decisions you will make will be influenced by your friends.
Yes.
So again, having a group of friends who will bring you closer to Allah rather than away from Him is really important to ensure.
Finally, sister, I would just like to ask, you know, one of the most important things to try and remove misconceptions surrounding Muslims is being able to talk to other people of different faiths. And I was just wondering, how can we make ourselves more open and more approachable to non-Muslims while wearing the hijab in our daily lives?
I think it's understanding what the hijab stands for. So it's not just a clothing where, you know, I think Muslims tend to go to one extreme or the other. So you have Muslims who will wear the clothing and then feel that they have the right to interact as much as they want with the opposite gender. And there's no sort of barrier there at all. And then you've got other Muslims who will wear the attire and feel that they can't interact at all. And I think we need to find a middle ground where, you know, I'm wearing, I'm covering myself and I will interact in what is necessary. And what is necessary is to be open to people, to welcome people to come and talk to me and ask me why I wear what I wear. And if they have any questions, no matter how silly those questions seem to me, you know, they should feel comfortable to be able to talk to me about them. So just smiling at people, you know, sort of when you walk past people, you know, just giving them a little smile is not against my hijab. It's just sort of saying, you know, I acknowledge you as a human being and I'm a human being. And, you know, and it just opens, or, you know, or good day, or, you know, the weather's really nice today. Just opening up a conversation so that then if they feel they want to ask me something, they can. And, you know, me being quite comfortable with answering. And again, if I can only answer the questions if I understand the hijab myself. If I don't, if I'm just wearing it because I've been told to wear it and I really resent it, then that's going to come across as well.
Yeah, that would be quite an awkward moment, wouldn't it? And absolutely, smiling is just the best thing, and it's the easiest way of giving sadaqah as well.
Exactly.
Like, isn't it beautiful, a religion that rewards its followers for smiling?
And it's very infectious. So if someone's having a really bad day and you just smile at them, it just picks them up a little bit as well, which is,
really does.
You know, you've helped another human being, which is what Islam is about, is helping the creation as well.
It really does. Like, that's something, you know, I know in my daily life, you know, when I'm going out, I'm getting a coffee at Starbucks, I'm picking up some food, like, I try to be nice and polite because there's this kind of mentality where, like, sometimes, you know, we look down at people that in retail or whatever, and, you know, I just think that that's awful. We should never look down at a human being. You know, we're all the same. It doesn't matter, like, if I'm working as a producer and presenter and this guy's working in Starbucks, it doesn't matter.
No, not at all. The halal earning, that's what it's about.
That's the main thing.
For sure. And
That's
I think it's important for us to realize that it's you know, if I'm wearing hijab, I'm actually representing Islam. So the way that I behave, the way that I talk, the way that I interact with people is what I'm doing is I'm saying to them, this is what Islam is. Because they're not going to look at it and say, oh, Masma did this. They're going to look at it and say, a Muslim woman did this.
Yes.
So it's really important for me to be the best advertisement for Islam.
Yes, a flag bearer
yes,
for Islam.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, sister, for joining us today. I'm afraid we've run out of time. But dear viewers, please stay tuned for the next segments where your fiqh questions will be answered by Sheikh Ayub.